Hey, welcome to the Next Step podcast. We are in episode number 13 now, and our mission is specifically to lead people to understand how they take their next steps in their journey with Jesus by introducing people like these to people like you, just regular people like you. So today, I've got Andy and Fina Simondelli.
Right.
Is that right?
Absolutely
Fantastic.
right. Fantastic.
They're from South Africa or other parts of Africa
from
originally,
the Congo.
right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you and kind of like Andy and Fina, where you've come from and how you got here and all that kind of stuff. And take your time.
Man, that's a long story.
That's good. That's okay. We're good for long stories.
So I was born in the Congo.
Okay.
That's the central part of Africa, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, because there are two Congos.
Okay.
If you look at the map, the bigger Congo, that's where I come from. On the south west part of it, I was born very close to the capital city in Kinshasa. I was born in Kisantu. It's about 100 miles to the capital city. Born of regular middle-class family. My dad worked in public administration, and my mom formerly was a teacher. Then she became a full-time homemaker, so to say. Family of five. I'm the fourth. I have a younger sister and a brother and two bigger sisters. I was in the Congo until in 2000 when I turned 24. I was in my final year university. I attended University of Kinshasa, studied economics and management. But at the time, things were really bleak, looking forward, looking up as a young and upcoming guy, soon to graduate university. The unemployment rate was 60% in the country. There were 5 different areas of the country being fought. There was literally war in the eastern part of the country. Nothing was happening. Very dark times. As a young, upcoming guy, looking like, geez, I'm not gonna stay here. I gotta take my chances. I'm out. So I was 24. I remember that clearly. September 6, 2000.
Wow.
I took off. With my dad's blessing, they were anxious, they were worried. I told them, I think my path is different. I'm going to go. I was always brought up and educated in a Roman Catholic, setup. That's my family faith. I had that faith with me. So Christianity was always a part of me, but in a different kind of way.
Right.
More
formal.
Very formal, exactly. I didn't have that, very personal relationship with God. And lucky for me, as I took off, I would now come in to, closer to God, so to say, because circumstances that surrounded me, my flight would lead me closer to God.
Yeah.
So I moved about 4,000 kilometers to the south of Africa to a country called Zimbabwe, and I landed in Harare. Remember that September 6, 2000. There's a long story to that, but I'm going to save that for another day. But the friends I was in touch with, we had this grand idea. We're going to find employment. Things are going to be different. It didn't materialize. I found them in a very difficult situation. I joined them, so to say. I had $90 into my name in my pocket, and I had to share my $90 with my friends. Now we're all grown-ups. One of them is in Japan and the other one is in the UK now. So it was a tough year, the year 2000 for me. But in that process, I learned to put my knees down and search God. I remember in January of 2001, that when I received Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and I got baptized. In that process.
Did you know Fina at the time?
No.
Okay.
No, I would not meet Fina until another 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I stayed in Zimbabwe in the early stage. If you know a little bit about the story of Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe scored the highest inflation rate in the history of the African continent.
Wow.
Between 2000 and 2001, there was political struggle with the UK, former colonial power. During that time I was there, they scored about 6,000% inflation. So very quickly.
Well, we thought our inflation was bad here.
Very bad.
6,000%. Can you imagine?
Yeah, very quickly between 2000 and 2003, when I left on August 9th, things went really bad, to the extent that you'd go to any store, the shelves would be empty. There'll be nothing, absolutely nothing. There was, political struggle over land control with the former colonialists. Tony Blair was the UK Prime Minister at the time. There were a lot of history there. But I made the decision to leave by 2003 and move to South Africa. Okay. September 9th, on August 9th.
You're very specific. You remember those dates.
Yeah, those are critical days for my life. Those shaped my life. So I got to Johannesburg. And it was hard, and very quickly, joined a church. It's in that church, part of the Apostolic Faith Mission of South Africa. The church was called A's of Promises Sanctuary. It's based on Hebrews 6:12. Okay. So that we imitate those who through faith and perseverance inherit the promises. That's the foundation of the church. Yeah. It's in that church that I met Fina in 2005.
Fantastic. And that's where you saw the light in more than one way, right?
Yeah. And eventually the rest is history.
That's awesome. So Fina, tell us something about you and how did you grow up in South Africa?
Yes, I was raised in South Africa. I was also born in the Congo, same country as Andy, but my parents immigrated in South Africa in the 1990s, 1994. That's where my parents decided to leave the Congo and go to South Africa. And I was like between 7 and 8 when I left my country, and I was literally raised in South Africa.
Wow. That's cool. So you kind of told me you had a really inspiring, in a different kind of way, reason you left. Yeah. So you tell us some of what happened to really say it's time for me to ultimately uproot myself and take my family, or maybe tell us more about you and Fina, about how you fell in love and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so within the church, I became, I was the interpreter, basically. Okay. It was a bilingual church. We spoke French and English. And because South Africa it's an English-speaking country, and there was this large French-speaking community from people across Africa, the church was mainly, creating a space for this community to come and thrive and meet God and fellowship. And a lot of families that immigrated to South Africa, they would want their family, the children, to stay in touch with, the culture, and that was found within the church. And I was first of all started off being one of the interpreters, and then I became the main interpreter for about 12 years until I left South Africa.
So you were interpreting from French to English?
And backwards, yeah.
And back and forth. Wow.
So, cool. Yeah, so that's the reason why, like, when I came here, for about 2 or 3 years, I couldn't serve because I was so used to doing interpretation. I couldn't find my fit, you know, in any church. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Right. Anyway, but back then, as I was serving within the youth ministry, I noticed Fina, but it wasn't like immediately because I was like seeing other people at the time. But in the process, one of the relationship I was in didn't come to fruition, and I took time to pray about it, and my eyes were at that point started looking into Fina. But Fina was also at a different stage in her life. I think she'll talk about that. Yeah. So I always knew that, okay, I'm ready physically, mentally, spiritually. She's going to be the one for me. But it took time for us to align our ideas, our minds together, you know, so it was like kind of a slow growing process.
I think that's what happens the whole life while you're married, right?
Yes, exactly. And but I popped the question in 2006. We got married 2007. We had our first child in 2008, and it was 11, a second in 2012, the third one, and here we are.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of tension in South Africa, and there's some things. You actually were a victim of a crime, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Tell us, if you don't mind, a little bit about that and how kind of that was like the last straw that broke the camel's back and said, we're getting out of here.
Yeah. So We were victim on 4 different occasions of crime.
4 times.
4 times. Yeah, I think the first time,
Shortly after we got married.
shortly after before we got married, I got my car stolen in
that
front
was
of
it.
your house.
Car stolen.
So
Okay.
car stolen. So we came from church on a Friday night, and Fina stayed with her aunt, and she was like, "You're a single guy. You should stay for dinner and so on." So I stayed for dinner. I parked my car on the driveway in front of the house, and I finished dinner and come out. The car was
Oh, my
not
goodness.
there, gone, and we never saw it. So shortly after we got married, I think 4 months, it was in July of 2007, we had 4 guys breaking into our house. We had wearing balaclavas and all that. We were held at gunpoint and a knife,
4
sequestrated
For 4 hours.
for 4 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was pregnant at that
Yeah, she was
time
pregnant with our
with my
first daughter. And
What?
I was terrified, praying. Fina, her younger sister Gael, who is in Canada now, and a young niece. The whole time they were, raping ladies was like common thing. So
Wow.
the whole time I was thinking, my God,
Fearful. Yeah.
they'll kill me, they'll rape these ladies, and they'll kill all of us. And thank goodness, nothing of that. They took whatever they needed to take. They kept us locked up in a room.
Wow.
And then
Yeah.
they left. Very traumatic.
They told you to stay in the room for a long time, didn't they, before you lived?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They locked us from one of the bedrooms. I wanted to come out, and the ladies was like, "No, they're gonna kill you. They're still there." I'm like,
Yeah.
"They're gone. We need to do something." So I had to break the door, break out of that room. They'd taken all of our cell phones and that, disconnected the phone line. So I had to go like trying to get a tone from the wires, and eventually
Right.
we called the police. That investigation never amounted to anything.
You lost everything they took.
Yes, we did lose everything.
Did you ever get your car back? No.
No.
Car's gone too?
No, that car was a year prior, was gone.
Okay.
Never got it back.
Right.
Yeah, we had another incident of a car being stolen, but that was recovered after 3 days with JC, remember? But they
The insecurity of the whole country.
the insecurity of the whole country, but December 30th, 2013, that's when I was for the second time held at gunpoint, broad daylight. I remember that very clearly. Went to the bank. I had a check to cash, and I drove to the church. We had a young niece who needed to attend rehearsals at church because the following night we were preparing for an all-night prayer vigil, crossing into 2014. That was the habit of the church.
Yeah.
So from the bank, we came to the church driveway. As I pulled on the driveway, I noticed this 1 Series BMW right behind me, kind of blocking the way. And I could see from my rearview mirror this guy, black jacket, leather jacket, and with a handgun, arming it. I could see that. I'm like, oh my God. And he came in. In South Africa, we drive on the right side. This driver sits on the right side. So he came right through my window, pointed a gun at me like this, took the key off the ignition, and I had a little bag where I had the money I'd cash from the bank,
Right.
my passports and bank cards and all that. He reached that, and I had put it under my driver's seat, so they had monitored or they followed me.
Right.
So he reached down from outside, he put his hands out, he took it, and he hit me with the back of the gun across my face here,
Man.
and they took off. That was kind for me, amongst other things. They signaled that I'm not going to wait for a third time lucky. My life is in danger, and I got to take off.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you decide you're going to come to America, and how did all that happen?
Well, Andy and I have traveled before in different part of the country. Like me personally, I've been in the UK, Europe, and stuff like this. But then when we decided we wanted to travel as a family, we were looking at a place to go, like which will be safe, which will have freedom of speech, which, all those things. And we thought America is one of those places that can welcome us and everything. So that's how we kind of decided that.
Fantastic. So what was the day you took off and came to America? You remembered all the rest of the days, right?
You want to talk about that?
We left South Africa in November. I don't remember the date. Like
2013?
Yeah, November.
Yeah.
November 2016.
2016,
November
yeah.
20th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we first went back to the Congo. For me personally, I had to see where my mom was buried. And then from Congo, we came here. We landed here in the U.S. in 2016, December 25th, 2016.
On Christmas Day?
Yes, it was Christmas Day.
Wow. Where did you land? Which city?
New York.
New York?
New
Okay.
York.
New York.
Nah,
New Jersey.
New Jersey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just-
New York,
Okay.
New York, New Jersey. I
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah. I've been to that airport before. That's a pretty place. Awesome. All right. So now you're in America
Yeah.
and you've got 3 children. They were like all single digits back then, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So there
Yeah.
were babies and preschoolers and elementary school kids and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So tell us about your life once you got to America.
You want to start?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it was hard. It was,
bet
you know,
so.
like moving into any other country, starting over basically from
Yeah.
scratch. It was hard. You know, I remember crying for few weeks, crying, like thinking that we made the wrong decision because we left our comfort zone, like our home and everything. And yeah, it was tough at the beginning because we left New York right after New Jersey, right after New Year, and we moved to Maine,
Okay.
Portland, Maine.
Okay.
And if you know that it's
Absolutely know Portland,
extremely
Maine.
cold there.
Very cold.
And coming from Africa, it was like new to me. Not the cold, but the snow was
Yeah.
horrible.
What's this white stuff, right?
Yeah.
Had you ever seen snow before then?
Well, yeah, not as much
Not
though,
as
but
much.
yeah.
Oh, but it does
Yeah.
snow in Africa sometimes.
Yeah, it
okay.
was just
Once
Yeah,
after 10 years or
Once
something.
after 5-10 years,
Yeah.
like you have this year, like when it's just like some snowfall, but not to the extent you experience.
Yeah, we're
it.
That we
talking
experience-
feet
yeah,
of
You're
snow,
talking
it was
right?
like 6
feet of
inch,
snow,
12
very
inch, yeah.
overwhelming, and
Yeah.
you know, it was just a lot to handle.
And you're right in the middle of the winter time.
Yeah,
I mean, wow, how different that
Yeah.
was for you.
yeah.
It was different, and since we didn't have anybody to go to, we had to go to a family shelter,
Yeah.
and we stayed there for like almost a month
Wow.
and,
Yeah.
until they found us an apartment,
Okay.
which we stayed. We lived in that apartment for about 9 months until we got our social security card and our
Okay.
work authorization that allowed us to work legally.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we started our life, and we moved into our new apartment, and basically we started living
Wow.
because
Yeah.
before that we just like, you know,
Surviving.
surviving basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what kind of shelter were you in? Is it a Salvation Army shelter or a church shelter or a government shelter?
It's a government
It
shelter.
was government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do work hand in hand, so to say. They are, they have like a pretty good setup up north, like in Maine. Like just across the Salvation Army's shelter, and there's some people were there as well. But when we got there, we were in the family shelter, which is the state government shelter, and we stayed there for a few weeks, about 3 weeks, right? Until, like Fina says, until we eventually moved into an apartment, and we stayed in the apartment for about 9 months,
Right.
until we had like our paperwork sorted and we were able to take up employment and move to a place of our choice.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. So you went from South Africa, like deep in South Africa,
Yeah.
all the way in the northernmost part of North America, practically.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've only been up there one time, the Bowdoin College, which is or
Yeah.
Bowdoin College, which
Yeah,
is
I know.
not too
right?
far
It's-
from Portland.
Yeah, it's not too far from me. It's up north. Yeah, I know exactly
Yeah,
where it is.
anyway.
Yeah. It's a
So,
beautiful
how
place.
long were you there, and what did you do? What were you doing as you began your work career?
Yeah, I mean, the big question was always, how do you navigate the different structure, the different culture, the different place? Do you even have transferable skills. There's a lot of people believe like if you come from somewhere else, you may not have enough skills to work in within the U.S. And I was always someone who always like kind of stand up to challenges because I believe education is education. Doesn't matter if you get education in South Africa or in the U.S. or anywhere else. And
you're just learning.
You're just learning. And I took up, first of all, I didn't have a choice. I had a family. So finding employment was not, I was straight right onto it. Even as I didn't have my paperwork sorted yet, we were already like literally on the job market trying to find internship programs that would take us in. And she did the same. I did the same. Because of my background, I went, to job fair, trying to find the right fit for me. And luckily, I found this company. They were willing to give me an internship program, although they couldn't pay me because I didn't have like legal stay in the country as yet during that time. But for 3 months, I had internship with them. These are people I highly value. I really appreciate them for the chance they gave me. It allowed me to understand how the work culture is. It allowed me to meet new people and get that general understanding. And when my paperwork were issued, they were the first to employ me. My employment was right there, and they paid me all the hours that I had been internship for.
Oh wow!
As a sign of bonus.
Fantastic.
Yes, and that allowed us like to have immediately like a deposits, to pay for our apartment, because we appreciated the apartment the shelter put us in, but it was a tough place to be.
It wasn't home yet.
It wasn't home. So we very quickly, as that bonus was paid, we found a nice place and we moved the family there.
Fantastic.
And we were able to start. And I stayed with the company for about a year and a half until I was always like searching, and until I found my current employer. So
we talked a little bit about that earlier. Tell us about what you do now, or kind of take us from there to what you do now.
Yeah, well, so when I moved, the company I'm talking about is Spectrum Enterprises.
Spectrum Enterprises.
Yes, okay. They do.
It's not cable. It's not a cable company.
No, it's not the cable company. Yeah, every time I say people are like, "Oh, the cable company." It's not a cable company.
I'm not a cable guy, right?
This is a very specialized company. They do eligibility program for affordable housing, and a specific type of affordable housing is Section 42.
Okay.
Which grants like lifetime eligibility. Once you eligible, you'll always be eligible, and that irrespective of level of income and so on. So the eligibility criteria is very tough. So I was employed as an analyst to begin with.
Okay. And you're trying to determine who is eligible and keep them eligible. So what makes Section 42 different than like Section 8 or something else too? Is it higher income qualifications? Is that what it is?
Exactly, that's the income qualification. Section 8 is a month-to-month program, and you have to, demonstrate your eligibility on an ongoing basis. Okay. Once you qualify for Section 42, you're always qualified. You're grandfathered for life. But the requirements are also different. Like Section 42, they would approve a specific, like within an apartment building, maybe one unit will be approved for Section 42. Section 8, I'm sorry. Section 42, it's the entire facility, the entire building has to be approved for eligibility. So, and there are grants program that the developer can benefit from, and once they get that, they can develop affordable housing, and that's for the longest term. And people can be grandfathered on it and so on. So it's a great program, but it is a tougher and more restrictive than Section 8, which is more, Section 8 is more like sort of acute, if I could use that word. Yeah. Section 42 is permanent. Once you approved, you always approved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And then
I guess it's all multifamily unit housing. Mostly it's not single homes.
Yeah, it's not single homes. It's always multi-families. But there are also criteria of people that like they don't take transient people.
Right.
You have to meet certain eligibility criteria and so on. It was a great fit. It gave me a chance to understand how things work, the corporate culture, etc. And eventually I moved on to my current job, which is in insurance.
And it's the same company? But you're in a different division of the company.
No, it's a different company.
And what's the name of this company you're in now?
Unum Insurance.
Unum Insurance?
UNUM. It used to be called Unum Provident Insurance. Now it's just Unum Insurance.
And all this time, you're raising these girls and getting them used to America and going to school. So you went from Newark in a small shelter to an apartment in Portland, and then another apartment in Portland. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And then so you also are involved in working with as a nursing assistant and med techs and various things like that. Had you already started your career then?
Yes, in South Africa, I was already starting my nursing program. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it because we had to, kind of travel and everything.
Yeah.
But once I got here, I knew exactly that that's the field that I wanted to be in. Even when we were at the family shelter, I asked them to kind of send me to go do volunteer welfare at a place where they can see that, they can see my
your calling,
my skills and everything.
Skills,
So they sent me at a very nice nursing home. And once they saw me there, I was helping, I was volunteering, and I think the CEO or one of the managers saw me and, approached me and spoke to me. And then I told them that I wanted to be a nurse and stuff like this, and they sent me to school.
Fantastic.
They sent me to school there. That's how I got my CNA there. And from the time when we got our Social Security, and I started working there, and I worked there until we moved to North Carolina.
That's awesome. And now you're finishing your nursing degree at Gaston College.
Yes.
It's awesome. Shout out to Gaston College out there, Dr. Hooser, and all those folks that are at Gaston, make it such a great place to be.
Yeah.
Wow. So now you're settled in Portland for a while, and then not Y2K, but the pandemic hits in 2020. Kind of tell us how that kind of affected you and how it uprooted you ultimately to come this way.
So we had made the decision to move to North Carolina
before
the pandemic.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so we were in Port Maine for about 3 years. We worked there, but at the time we were also considering a long term. Where is it that we're gonna settle?
Yeah,
for the long term.
We loved Maine, but we just didn't feel like it was where we wanted to settle.
Yeah. There was just a lot of tough things that we were dealing with. I mean, it's a great place to raise a family. It's very safe, very, very, very family friendly.
Good.
However, first of all, we're Africans.
Right.
And the weather system was too wild for us to handle.
Liking.
So we wanted someplace that's a little mild in this area.
And also the diversity, because I wanted my kids to be in a state where there's a lot of,
a lot more diversity, to be exposed to different cultures and so that. Maine is like predominantly like one culture, and you don't really get a lot of diversity in there.
Yeah.
And
but your gringos that look like me and talk funny.
And it's also like for the most part rural. So the education system is great, but you don't get a lot of opportunities. And when you raise children, you always want to see where's the best that you can do that. So long-term considerations really are the ones that made us start look beyond Maine. In 2019, we began that search. And we decided at the time that North Carolina, Charlotte area is going to be the place. And we got involved with a developer for the place where we live in now. Yeah. And we moved here right in the middle of the pandemic, though.
Wow.
Yes.
So we're building our home throughout the pandemic, and Andy will fly and come and see the progress and return. And then I will also come and see until about June when
June 2020.
Literally moved.
Yeah, everything was locked down, and Fina didn't want to do the driving, but we didn't have a choice.
So, boy. How long of a drive is it from Maine to here?
Oh my goodness.
16
hours if you don't stop. Wow. But like driving with a 26 foot long U-Haul and Fina driving in the back with the family, we made a stop in DC.
Okay.
And spent a night there. And this was in the middle of the social uprising, George Floyd issue and so on. Right there. Towards the end of June, so we did the driving, and we made it to North Carolina, in 2 days.
Wow, that's amazing. We're glad you made it. So did you move immediately into your house?
Yes.
It was ready?
Well, the house was ready, but we moved in the week of the 4th of July.
Okay.
So the attorney's office was closed.
Yeah.
So we could only close
gotcha.
on July the 6th.
Okay.
But we were in North Carolina about a week before, like on June 28th.
Okay.
So we had to wait all this time, staying in different like Airbnb and
Just a week.
yeah, there was a
was a
week,
week,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, it's about
Not
a
too
week.
bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
That is so
then when
cool.
we closed on July the 6th, that's when we moved into the house.
Same
That's
day.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
I was also fascinated, if I remember correctly, you said that you had started watching different church services while you were still in
Before
Maine.
moving.
Yeah.
And you kind of picked us out before you got here, which is really unique.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Wow.
That's true because obviously, we believe in God. We want to be in a place where we have a chance to fellowship. That's a really important thing for us. It's part of us. There's no other way to describe that. So we began doing a search online because everything was locked down. We couldn't like physically visit the church, and we're looking within a mile or two of the house, or even 5. What's a church that we could find? And I remember very clearly. So Daryl. Pop up one Sunday. He was preaching.
Yeah, Daryl Robinson?
Daryl
Yeah.
Robinson. And
Yeah.
I did tell him that at one point.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, and then I saw you, inviting people, like you were outside of the church on the ramp and talking on
Yes.
camera and so on, a word of exhortation. And I'm like, that church really spoke to us.
Yeah, I remember Andy telling me, I found a church for us. It's just next to the house.
Wow.
Yeah, just next to the house. There, we found eventually that there was a church closer to the house, but we were already with the Point Church, and we were like, "This is gonna be home, and we love it there, and we're gonna stay."
We're so excited about that.
Yeah.
And just thank you for the immediate impact you made on our culture and making it better and that type of thing. So how has our church helped you to take your next steps in your journey with Christ, or a step or something that has happened in your life since then?
Well, the Point Church really helped me. Since we got here to the U.S., I was not really open to kind of like getting to know people. I was always going to church and coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But since we moved here, the Point Church helped me just, kind of open up to talking to people, and also like help me to wanting to serve again.
Awesome.
Because since I came to the U.S., I was just like, not wanting to serve, not wanting to do anything. But the Point Church, the people were just so nice and everything. And I decided to give it a try. I started with the Collision,
Okay.
going to volunteer there. And it was just like so lovely. And I just feel like I can do this with other things. And we started doing groups with Andy.
Yep.
So I think it just brought me back to the serving spirit. That's what I'll say.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes us feel good because you felt at home.
Yeah, I
and
felt
like you
at
had
home.
the ability. By the way,
Definitely.
Justin and Bethany really bragged on you because there's this guy named Andy and Fina, and they're just amazing, and they did great
Yeah.
things right during the pandemic and right after it was over with. And
Yeah.
well, over with is relative, right? I guess some people are still living in the middle of it,
Yeah.
right?
Uh,
And you led a group in this last year.
Yes.
yes, we have
Yeah.
2 groups now.
2 groups. Yes, so we did a diversity group, and then this past season we did a marriage group.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You're doing did it in your home, and
Yes.
Yes.
that's really cool.
Yeah, so we do love doing groups at home. We just feel like it does create a different, that environment. And also in the spirit of the first churches where disciples met in homes,
Yeah.
we feel like it allows people to be more themselves. We can have casual conversation and so on, and so that's something that we have always, even when we lived in South Africa.
I wanted to say that
yeah,
we used to have
we
similar
had
group. We used to call it home cells.
Home
We'll have
cells.
it every Wednesday.
every
Okay.
Wednesday.
Where small group, different people will come. Like we'll have a little group in one person's house, and we just talk about what was preached on Sunday,
Okay.
and we'll just share our problems and just
yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing what God's done in your lives. I mean, from around the world, and what a journey. I mean, through loss. I guess you must have lost your mother early because you said you needed.
Yes, I lost my mother in 2005,
Wow.
just before meeting Andy.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so sorry about that. And just your family. Are your family still over there, or there's some over here now? Or
No,
Well,
most of her family is here.
Most of my family in Canada, UK, and I've got an elder sister that lives here in Seattle, Washington.
Seattle here in the US. Yes, most of my family is in the Congo.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about your girls. What are their names and how old are they and what's up with them these days and how are they getting acclimated to living in the greater Charlotte, Gaston County area?
So we've got 3 girls. Our oldest daughter is Pearl. She's 15.
Pearl. Yes.
And the second is Payla.
Payla.
She's 12. And the youngest is Fila.
Fila.
She's 10. They're all the P's initials. So we call them the PPP.
The PPP.
The triple P's. So, yeah.
Pearl,
Payla, and Fila.
Fila.
Yeah.
That's cool. I thought I was going to ask you like Fila like the shirt, but it's not an F, it's a P.
It's a PH.
It's a PH.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Fila means like Philadelphia. Like
Yeah,
love,
exactly
right?
that.
Love.
Yeah, it's
definitely.
some type of love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Know, it's not a romantic love. It's more like a platonic love or something like that.
Yeah. So the Philadelphia means
Mm-hmm.
the city of brotherly love. Delphia is Greek for city, and phileo is a word for love too.
Yeah.
And so Pela, P-E-L-A.
Yes.
Okay. Isn't Pela like a ball? No.
Yeah. I mean, there's a various meanings.
Right. What does Pela mean for you guys?
For me, Pela is I don't know what's the word in English, but it's also an irreversible sort of thing, decision,
like destiny,
something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, you on this path and there's no going back.
Okay. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. And Pearl obviously means precious
unique.
jewel, right?
Precious jewel.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So Pearl is actually a student at Gaston College Early High School.
Yes, she's doing early college.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's a great program.
Mm-hmm.
And y'all get to do that together kind of at the same place, even though she's not in the same building.
She don't want to see me though.
Oh, that's right. Well, that's just kind of being a part of a teenager, right?
Yeah.
They eventually come back and they want to need you again, but just not right now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So as you begin to think about what God is doing in your life next, just what are some of the things that really inspire you spiritually? I mean, do you have favorite Bible verses or passages or things that mean a lot to you, like a life verse or a special calling? You've certainly been called into serving as an elder with us and small group leaders together and serving in the team. But what's God saying to you now these days? What's next for you?
It's interesting because this has been the recurrent theme for me personally, like my whole life. I feel like God has called me to serve, to be a beacon of hope to people around me or people I can have access to, and to help not just with words but also with material and finance. Mm-hmm. And that has always been like my life for as long as I can hear, understand, and so on. And it's an ongoing issue because like when you think of finance, it's always an interesting conversation because you don't always have like this family, you have all these kind of things, but you also have a community next to you, and that are a lot of the time in need of stuff, and family that are in need of stuff, and they have a lot of the time they have expectations, and I always feel this burden that I'm out there and need to help even when I don't have.
So your background's in economics and finance, which is interesting.
Yes.
But it's like God has put in your spirit to be generous and experience the spirit of generosity.
Exactly. And we always have some type of request or demand, from our family, from friends, and sometimes we'll look at, like, you remember this past week, it's just like, this person is just like reached out to Fina, like, hey, could you give me a handout? And Fina's like, it's this way as God is, but that's always something that I feel. And when I came to the church, to the Point Church, and that's something that really spoke to me, and I think I shared that with you as well, is that the way the church is so generous with
to the
community.
Thank you.
And that's something that is always it is challenged to me personally, individually, in ways that I'd never been challenged before.
Right. I
was like marveled at, oh my God, the church is so out there, so reaching, and I feel it's a lot of the churches in an underrated quality that people don't often talk about, and we should be proud. The Point Church should be proud of the work that they do in the community, the impact that it's bringing, that help, whether it's locally, internationally, in other churches. We see it's just wonderful, and that's certainly a calling from God to shine in that way. And I feel so much connected to that personally.
Yeah.
And I have my challenges, my struggle, but when I think about it, when I pray about it, and I don't hear anything else other than that's your path. And I pray for God for more blessings so we could be able to impact more people. So that's
cool.
how I am. Like spiritually, I'm right there.
Absolutely. Fina, how about you?
Well, my favorite verse is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. I just feel like that verse really is a part of me, because no matter the difficulty that I face personally or with my family, God has always provided. Mm-hmm. God has always been there for me, for us. So, right now, I think what God is telling me is to be patient. He's really testing my patience at this moment, because there's many things that I was hoping to have the beginning of this year, and I haven't seen it yet, but I know God is still, working. So it's really like testing my patience right now, but
understand. So how far along in your nursing program? How much longer do you have to go?
I still have about a year and a half, about 2 years. Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah. Oh gosh. And if you're into biology and chemistry and microbiology and anatomy and physiology, I just pray for you, dear God, please help her through all that stuff. That is hard stuff.
I finished the anatomy and physiology.
Wow, that's cool.
That's hard stuff, and I do feel like, unfortunately, I can't have those conversations with you, because like that wasn't part of my curriculum when I was studying. I'm all business or math, so not science and biology is like I don't know anything about.
So she's going to go study, and you're going to go pray for her while she studies.
I'm going to go pray for that. And I realized I didn't answer the question about my favorite Bible verse. When I think about it, I really feel connected to Hebrews 6:12.
Which was the theme of the church in Africa that you attended. What is Hebrews 6:12?
It says so that you imitate those who through faith and perseverance inherit the promises.
Right. Imitate those who through faith and perseverance inherit the promises.
Yes.
Wow.
And
it's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of the time I get challenged in my faith, in my belief system, and because of the need of now, and you can't escape it. You go home, the need is there. You speak to family, the need is there, and challenged. But I'm reminded constantly that God is faithful, and through faith and perseverance, eventually things will happen.
That's awesome. What a great theme. I have never heard of a church who had adopted that as a theme. Yeah. But what a beautiful verse.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, we're so grateful to have you as part of our church, and just grateful to have you in the community. You make our community better, and you're in the process of finishing your citizenship. So you've been here since 2013 or 16?
16.
Yeah. So you've been doing things legally and trying to go through the right hoops and all that kind of stuff.
Paying our taxes.
Paying your taxes, right? And you've been to Boston. Actually, this year you thought maybe this might be the year where you would get your stamp of approval, but unfortunately, they just kind of it wasn't because of anything you had done. They just kind of took it off the court docket for that day.
So this is the second time. Actually, the first time our appointment was supposed to be in 2001.
Okay,
but which was 2021, which was canceled because of the pandemic, and which was normal. Just this year, it was like...
Well, judges on vacation. What?
Yeah.
Or whatever the reason was. You never know.
And it's very frustrating because...
Sure it is. I understand.
We've been waiting for that day in court for 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean, literally 4 years, because from 2021, then we got the postponement. Then basically for 4 years we've been waiting, and then we showed up on that day. There was up north, there was a storm somewhere, and the judge couldn't make it in time in court. So
you kind of like, give me a car, I'll go get him.
Exactly, and that was. We were in prayer the whole time, and that day our faith was tested, really.
I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to keep praying for you, because we know the step is... Have they given you a date for next year yet?
Yeah, we have one. It's in April next year.
April of next year, all right. Between now and April 20, 24, we're going to be praying for them.
Yeah.
More important things are happening, church, than the election next year. We got to get Andy and Fina in the country. And so you're working on a green card now, I guess, or something like that,
Yes,
right?
it's going to be a green card. That's where we are about. So,
Fantastic. Well, we're going to pray that you get that.
Amen.
And I would also understand the desperation for people to get in America, that they're willing to do it and sneak in. But you guys have chosen to do it in a way that is methodical and following the rules. Yeah. And I think that's a very admirable kind of thing. Understand the desperation of others that want to sneak in, but you came in the way that is legal and right and that kind of stuff. Fantastic. Well, I can't begin to tell you how excited we are about what God's doing in your life. And ultimately, one of these days, you're going to be standing by a bed nursing people with your nursing skills. And you're already doing that some, right?
Yeah,
as
I am.
In CNA and a med tech and that kind of stuff. And what you do to help people with long-term disability and things like that. And with Unum?
The Unum insurance, yes.
Or is it Unum or Unum?
Well, it's Unum, but some people say Unum. That's like when I
want to make sure to say it right. You know?
Yeah, either way, it's fine. So usually with people with Hispanic background, they will say Unum.
Right.
Plain English speaking people, they will say Unum.
Right.
So
because United States of America, but
so it's either way, it's correct.
Here's what I want to say. It doesn't matter what you say. It sounds so much more beautiful than I say. Okay, Andy, say water.
Water.
Okay, Fina?
Water.
Now, see, it's even better than Andy. I love it. You can just make it sound so much better. But it's such an honor to have you as part of our church. And thank you for leading and serving and being an example to so many. And we're excited that other people, when they now watch this video, they'll have a chance to get to know you. And when they see you walking up the ramp, they'll feel like you're their best friends or their BFFs ever and that kind of stuff. But anyway, besties. Let me pray for you before we go.
Sure.
Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much for preserving Andy and Fina's life and Pearl's and Pela's and Fila. I just pray, God, that you continue to bless them as they unite with our country. And in Christ, there's neither Jew nor Greek nor slave nor free nor male nor female. We are all one in Christ Jesus. And just thank you for teaching us that in a very specific way, in a graphic way, as we learn together. Pray your blessings on them and blessings on all those that watch. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So we'll see you next time for episode number 14 of the Next Step Podcast. And thanks again so much.
Absolute pleasure being here. Thank you.